Hey, this is Brandon Crawford from the San Francisco Giants, and you're listening to Torture Cast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Let's go, Giants! With hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, Ben Lee, and Eric Nathanson. Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball, the San Francisco Giants. This is Torture Cast. Standing on time, not gonna stop. We came to play, ain't slowing down. Falling on, we're here to stay, and we're stomping on whatever's in our way. I'm feeling like a Giant tonight.
Hey everybody, it is September 9th, 2019, and this is episode 179 of the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. And that's right, that's the Doobie Brothers playing in the background there. Thought it was a good ode to the young kid who came up this week and did really well with the Giants. But joining me today to talk about Doobie and everybody else from this week in Giants baseball is Eric Nathanson. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Doobie has provided the Giants with a spark.
He has. He has been pretty freaking incredible. So, Giants had a decent week. Nothing to write home about, but they are, they went 3-3 since we last recorded, 3-4 on the road trip. They lost 3 out of 4 in St. Louis and then took 2 out of 3 in LA. So that was fantastic. But we all know that the playoff situation is non-existent right now. But just to update you, it's 7.5 games out of the wild card. And, of course, they were officially eliminated out of the Western Division race several days ago. But it was very good to note that those couple wins prevented, and Arizona's wins as well, prevented the Dodgers from clinching the division while playing the Giants. And that is always something that we have to look at with a silver lining, because this is going to be the 7th consecutive division title that the Dodgers have won. And the Giants have to try and keep avoiding that clinching while they're playing them. It's a minor thing, I know, but it's pouring salt in the wound.
Yeah, you don't like to see it. I think that I don't know. Recently they clinched. Well, last year they clinched a tie by beating the Giants on the last day of the season, but then they had to go play the Rockies. I hate seeing that, And it was funny because having those 2 wins under their belt made Sunday. I don't want to say meaningless as far as the Giants were concerned, but, they won the series. They prevented the clinching. So, like everybody else, they decided to go watch football for the opening weekend on Sunday afternoon because they totally just didn't show up yesterday. No. And Giants fans didn't seem to mind. The Niners came out and they got their first win. Like, did you get to watch football yesterday?
I did. I was finishing up painting, so I had the Niners game on, and unfortunately, I got booted later because my son was home and the rest of my family was gone, and I couldn't entertain him. So he was able to coordinate with a friend who now lives in Sacramento. He's only 9 years old, by the way, my son. And they played a little Fortnite while they FaceTimed each other. So he took over the main TV. But I had to catch up on highlights in the second half. But yes, very happy that the Niners did pull out their first win of the year. I know your Bears didn't fare as well, unfortunately.
That was embarrassing. I'm sorry, America. As a Bears fan, that was an embarrassing way to start the season. That was I said it to you that night. If we were recording, I would have been steaming mad because Giants lost 10-0 earlier in the day, and then my Bears came out and looked like yeah. So, it was just a crappy way to start the season. I hope things change next week. I was glad the Niners won for everybody. They have a weird schedule. They start out on the road at Tampa, at Cincinnati, and then they play 2 more AFC North teams before they even play their division. I was looking at that today. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. The good thing is that the first couple of games here, especially against Tampa Bay and Cincinnati, even though they're on the road, you're kind of like, well, those are winnable games. Let's try to get those now because later this schedule gets real hard. And for the Niners to even approach 500, they need to, I think, pad their schedule with a few wins in the beginning. But anyway, I'm happy. The Niners defense played really well. yesterday. Jimmy G was okay. But the officiating, sorry to get sidetracked here, but the officiating, and I didn't watch all the Bears game, but I know there's a new ability to replay or ask for a replay of non-calls, specifically on pass interference. And that's a new one to me. I didn't even realize that was kind of a new rule in the NFL this year. So it happened twice in the Niners game where, Richard Sherman went up on a ball and there was no call. But when they showed the replay, he clearly did interfere with the pass. Like he pulled the receiver and, grabbed his collar and kind of all that stuff. So they challenge the play and they get to review it. And even though it's a judgment call, which is what is really interesting about this new rule, because usually judgment calls aren't reviewable, but they've made this particular rule reviewable. So they did judge, and I do think correctly that Sherman interfered, and they gave him the first down on the PI call. So later it happened as well against Sherman, and again, he was not called for it, and the review did not give him the pass interference call, and he didn't interfere. But weird stuff, man. That's going to really slow down some games because there was like a 3 or 4 minute review because, again, it's a judgment call. So it's not like a safe or out call at a base where it's like it's clear cut or it's not. This is interpretation. This is like, well, is that a pass interference? There's a lot of gray area there.
That's what I don't like about it at all. It comes in response from the missed pass interference penalty in the NFC Championship last year with the Saints and the Rams. And, I mean, I get like it's just knee-jerk reaction. From everything I've listened to and watched, they say it could be a one-and-done type rule. Who knows? It just sucks that it's during the NFL's 100th season because I am getting kind of a kick out of all the 100th stuff, and like NFL Network's going to have a countdown of 100th this and 100 best that, and I get a kick out of anniversary type stuff. So like I like that football's back. It puts a certain natural rhythm back into the every week lifestyle. It's a shame because we're not going to have Giants in October this year.
No,
so
it's not. Yeah. I mean, I love this time of year. Obviously, in years past, it's been special with the Giants in the playoffs in 16, 14, 12, and 10. And having that ability to not only the extension of the baseball season and these really, really important games, but that in concert with football every Thursday, Sunday, and Monday, it's sports nirvana for most sports fans of the kind of the major sports in America. So, and for someone like me, I like football. I'm not, I have some issues. Obviously, we all know about the concussions and how the players are treated and all that. We won't get into that. But as far as the sport itself, I really enjoy watching. But it's a lot of fun. But getting back to the rule thing, it is weird because baseball or football and basketball and even hockey, they change their rules quite frequently. It's definitely not the same game it was 50 years ago. Baseball, however, primarily, for the most part, has remained unchanged in most of their rule set. And it's really not till recently where a lot of these rule changes are starting to occur, more like the other sports, which is, I know it bugs the purists, and I consider myself a bit of a purist. The reason I like the game to not change, unless it's for safety reasons, like I was fine with changing the catcher rule at home plate, things of that nature, the Buster Posey rule, right? Not just because of Buster Posey, but, for the health of the players.
Yes, it saved people, even second base where they don't take each other out anymore.
Exactly. So those I don't mind. I don't think that changes the game significantly at all. We're not talking about home run records and pitching records and things like that. It's... the core rules really have stayed the same, but there's a big rule that's changing next year for baseball. And I had kind of forgotten about it till they brought it up the other day when the Giants had a flurry of relievers. And of course, Rogers came out for one batter. That's gone next year. There's no one batter for a pitcher. There's no specialization in that regard. You bring in a reliever, they have to face 3 batters, period. And that is going to be the weirdest change. And I know it's all in the effort to speed up the game. That's the minutia behind it. I don't care. I would still rather see the specialists come in and get those. And I get it. For the regular season, it's not as much of an impact because you're talking about a game in April, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the, down to the stretch, a playoff game especially, that's where it's really going to change things. Not the regular season. And it's not really going to change numbers too much, but it's really could potentially affect the outcome of postseason series. And that's where it kind of bugs me because I have no problem in a postseason series having the bases loaded with a lefty coming up and one out, and a guy goes to their lefty specialist to get that one out, and now there's 2 outs, and then you could throw the righty back in against the righty. But now it's like, no, that lefty that comes in has to face, maybe it's Cody Bellinger, right, with the bases loaded and one out, and he gets him. Maybe he gets him, but then the next guy is the power hitting righty, and now what are you going to do? Well, he has to stay in
Justin Turner comes to the plate.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Justin Turner comes to the plate. And so now, and the numbers flip. So now the managers are going to have to forecast 3 batters ahead and look at the potential pinch hitters as well. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like, if the team announces a pinch hitter, well, sorry, your lefty's in there, buddy. So it's going to give an advantage.
Well,
to both teams.
That's what I wonder. That's where
in
the
sense
tweak
of
should
batters.
be. Yeah, that's to me where the tweak should be. If the offensive team chooses to pinch hit, you as a defensive team should be allowed to counter it and change pitchers at that point. I feel like the rule at that point should become null. It's almost like in football when the offensive team, even if they're in a hurry up, if they substitute out some players and bring in a new package, they have to wait to let the defense also sub out. So you have to be able to counter move. They shouldn't be getting an advantage because they get to put a pinch hitter in, 2 hitters after your pitcher came into the game, or 1 hitter after your pitcher came into the game when you were just looking to get that specific out.
Yeah, so it changes things in a way I don't think are necessarily good in terms of changing postseason outcomes. I know it's the same for both teams. They can do the same thing in a tight game, but if they're looking to shorten the games, well, what if you have a situation where if you had a lefty specialist and you go back to a righty, and even with the pitching change delay, you get out of the inning without any runs more times than not. But if you have a lefty come in and then the pinch hitter big guy comes in off the bench and he hits a gapper and 2 runs score, it extends the inning, right? So I don't know. I just don't know if it's really going to speed up games.
It won't. That's the thing. It's not. Manfred worries about people losing interest in baseball, and it's not games being slow. It's things like almost 5 American League teams losing 100 games. It's possible that 5 American League teams could lose 100 games this season. God. That's something that will drive people away from baseball. When you don't have competitive markets in certain places, it's not necessarily shaving 30 seconds here or a minute and a half here. I mean, give me a break. Just, tell the networks they can't go to commercial when there's a pitching change then, and enforce the rule that the pitcher comes in, he throws 5 warm-up pitches, and bang, boom, let's go. I mean, that's not hard to do. I've umpired enough baseball games where a relief pitcher comes in. It takes a minute total. I mean, that's nothing. It's not a big deal at all to let somebody. So I just that's why I don't understand it either. I mean, seriously, they have more problems with tanking and losing teams right now than they do with pace of play.
Yeah, I think it's going to change roster construction. Certainly, it's going to affect the minority of pitchers that are these lefty specialists primarily. And I know I keep saying lefty specialists, but we both know more specialists are lefty because of those particular situations and the lack of left-handed pitchers in the league in regards to against lefty-handed hitters. The other thing I was thinking of, and I didn't look into this just popped in the top of my head when I was thinking about it the other day. What would prevent a team from telling their lefty specialist, their loogie, to come in and then fake an injury after they get the out? What happens?
There has to be some failsafe.
I think there has to be. I mean, I'm sure they've thought about this. Like,
something connects.
If he comes out, he has to go on the IL. He's ineligible for the next game. Something like that.
Right. Something like that.
That's what I would think. Yeah, because otherwise, every time,
hey,
coach, my arm hurts. Okay, you're out of here. Well, let's put in the righty. It's like
little leaguey at that point. I don't like that.
I know. I just was curious about that. Well, anyway, it's something that Bochy does not have to worry about next year since he won't be managing in the major leagues next year.
Nope.
And again, he proved his managerial experience and mettle and gut and intuition again against the Dodgers, with that parade of rookie relievers and pitchers and allowing guys to face people that maybe they normally wouldn't have. I mean, it's what he did in all of the 3 playoff runs. He's just an incredible savant when it comes to this, and he won't have to worry about, I have to bring in, a Rogers guy for 3 pitchers next year or 3 batters next year. So
yeah,
something you don't have to worry about.
He not only with the parade of pitchers that he brought in this whole weekend in LA, the Friday night and Saturday night games, he won them in two different ways. Friday night, he loaded the lineup with righties against Kershaw, and after they stayed patient and Pilar knocked him out with the long at bat, he brought in the left-handed pinch hitters, and Yaz came in with a big hit, and then they ended up intentionally walking Brandon Belt, which led to Doobie driving in runs on a base hit, and it was like those moves to drop Yaz and Belton at the right times perfectly paid off to beat Roberts. And then the next night, when it's a 1-0 game the whole way, and he's just got to protect a lead, so he's got to play it differently. He's able to page through all the different relievers who get the job done in the ways that he wants them to. It was like watching old school Bochy at work. It reminded us of what makes him great, what made him great, why they won 3 titles, and now he's only 5 more wins away from 2000, and it's just he was so close. He was 107 and 107 at Dodger Stadium as a manager heading into yesterday's series finale, and had they won it, he would have had a winning record as a visiting manager, and as it is, they didn't, but his 107 wins is still the most ever at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah. No, that's pretty remarkable as a visiting manager to be just a percentage point, less than a percentage point, less than a half a percentage point under 500 at 107 and 108. Pretty damn cool. So, God, Eric, there's only 19 games left in the regular season. That's it. And
6 series. Yeah.
Giants got to go 5-14. All right. Again, should happen. I was getting a little worried there.
Here's the thing.
Worried there.
Should we shoot for 500? They're 5 games.
Of course
under.
they should.
Yeah, I think they have a shot to really. I mean, this week in particular, with games against Pittsburgh and Miami, and then the last week of the season with Colorado coming to town, I think they really. I mean, if they go 5-2 at home here, they really close the gap, and then maybe they like hitting and they hit well on the road, and I can totally see them blowing up Fenway. And Boston could be out of the race by the time the Giants get there. So it might just be, a bunch of high-scoring games.
Well, they got to go 12-7, but they could get healthy against Pittsburgh and Miami coming into Oracle. But again, they're freaking neutered at Oracle, so who knows what the hell is going to happen? Probably going to lose 3 out of 4 to the Pirates. But yeah, Boston, they just fired their GM, Dombrowski. Nice. Less than a year after winning a World Series, which is crazy to me.
Can you imagine?
That means to me something internally happened. I really don't think you pull the trigger on firing your GM purely based off the performance from this year. I can't imagine that. There had to have been something else, some mutual disrespect or disagreement that just said, okay, we can't go forward. So
it seemed that the Evaldi and Sale contracts, from everything I read, could be what that thing was that they were caught up on between ownership and him being a president. And I saw something funny. They said it in Boston: "Bring us a championship. We'll make you a legend." And then Theo brings them one. They run out of town. Yeah. Dombrowski brings them one. They run him out of town. Like what the? I mean, come on, Boston. I don't
get it. Yeah,
crap,
but I mean,
man.
It didn't happen here as fast, but it did happen here. You had the Sabian era bring us 3 world championships, and Bobby Evans was the assistant GM during those runs, and then he was promoted to GM, and both Sabian and Bobby Evans were responsible for those thank you contracts, which really hamstrung the Giants the last few years, and so that's why they were kind of put back in the shadow. They weren't fired; they were just kind of pushed back to other positions. So
they were given a lot more rope, though. I mean, they were given 4 years of latitude. Dombrowski got 1. I mean, he did great things by signing JD Martinez. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And they're talking about now that they might not bring back Martinez or Betts next year. But anyway, this isn't a Red Sox podcast.
I know. We're going off on football and rule changes and Red Sox. What's going
on?
This
happens.
is a Giants
September.
Podcast.
Yeah, it's September, though. I mean, if the Giants were in a race, we'd be talking about some, okay, can they catch the Brewers? And no, we ain't talking about that kind of stuff. We're talking about like Bochy getting he got a Koufax jersey from the Dodgers. He was honored by the Dodgers on Friday, and it was signed by Koufax with a nice little note on it. And there was a nice big message from Vin Scully on the video board where a nugget came out that Bruce Bochy hit the first and I believe only walk-off home run off Nolan Ryan that anybody ever hit.
I know, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know that till this little, like you said, this little nugget that came out. It's very odd. But hey, Bruce Bochy wasn't a Hall of Fame player. he hit the only walk-off on Nolan Ryan. But then again, these little things happen, where it's some odd player who did one thing against an immortal of baseball. But
he hit like 24 or 26 career home runs, and 3 of them were walk-offs. It's just kind of weird. Yeah, it's weird how stuff like that plays out. And the reason the Koufax jersey is Bochy, growing up in Florida, in Melbourne, idolized Sandy Koufax, and he would scoot on down to Vero Beach when Koufax was starting spring training games and go watch him. He was really somebody that he idolized. So that Koufax jersey means something to him. And it was funny when they were out in the field and Dave Roberts was doing a whole thing for the crowd. And they showed, I get such a kick out of this, they showed Giants World Series highlights on the Dodgers screen during the Vin
that
month.
Was the most bizarro world thing I've ever seen. I mean, honestly, I just...
Can't imagine it's ever been up there.
Bizarre. It was like, wait, they're showing World Series highlights of the Giants winning 3 titles on the scoreboard at Dodger Stadium. But you know what? What do you got to do? You tip your hat to the Dodger organization. That was extremely classy of them to not just award him and recognize him, which they could have done without playing those highlights, but they did. And I'm sure. Let's be honest. Let's say, the exact opposite happened, and it was a Dodger manager, whoever it may have been, because obviously, Dave Roberts hasn't been around too long.
Right.
But if it was someone like a Tommy Lasorda type who had been around for 25 years, and they were playing highlights of their 3 World Series championships at Oracle Park, I'd be just screaming, "What the hell are you guys doing?"
Yep.
So that was really, really classy of them. But I think, they had to recognize his tenure as a 25-year manager and how much he's done for baseball and how good of a man he is. So I just tip my cap to the Dodgers and say, hey, thanks. That was a very classy move.
I mean, he was a Padre before he was a Giant, so he's always been in the NL West as a visiting manager. Yeah. And I loved when you could see it in the presentation. Roberts tries to hand Bochy the microphone, and Bochy's like, no, he doesn't want to take it. And he said after the game to reporters that he didn't want to take it, that he said something to Roberts like he feared that lightning would strike a Giant for speaking to the crowd at Dodger Stadium. And I really appreciated that, because that brings the rivalry that we as fans feel back all the way home to the core, and that was when Roberts said into the microphone, he doesn't want to, there's a man who understands the rivalry. It felt kind of good, because it was a good rivalry weekend. It felt like a good celebration of Bochy. It really almost did. It was like his going away party at Dodger Stadium, and it was our way of thanking him for the memories of beating the Dodgers all those years to win titles, because it's going to be a different team next year.
And we got to remember, Dave Roberts was a Giant briefly, but he was a Giant at one point. So near the end of his
under
career.
Bochy. Yep.
Exactly, under Bochy. So they have a special relationship, and that was really cool to see. Well, we started off the podcast with Little Doobie Brothers, and I love some of your tweets this week about Doobie. How do you spell it? Doobie? Is it Doobie? Like Dubai or Doobie?
Well, I want to spell it Doobie, like the double O, but it just,
I know.
It seems too cheesy. It really does. And I guess Doobie likes it, D-U-B-I.
But Maricio Dubon, who, he's been a little bottle of lightning for the Giants. And you know what? The one thing that has impressed me is I know he was a top-rated prospect in the Brewers organization. And look, they got this guy off the Pomerantz trade. Freaking Pomerantz, guys. I mean, think about that. I mean, he may not amount to anything. This may be a flash in a pan, and it could be. But for right now, it looks pretty damn promising, because Pomerantz had zero future with the Giants.
Yep. Ray Black as well. He had worn out his welcome.
Yeah. No, it's been incredible. So he's come up, and I know he's an older rookie per se. He had a little brief stint with Milwaukee.
I think Doobie's only 20.
Oh, is he only 20? Okay, my bad.
So.
I thought he was a little older. Yeah, I thought for some reason I had it in my mind that he was actually 26. But if he
looks 14.
Oh, he looks 14.
I'll tell you that much. It was
25.
So fun.
He was born July 19th, 1994. He's 25 years old.
Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah,
so I said 26. So I was a year off. But anyway, close. He's so he's a little bit of an older rookie, but looking at his baseball Yeah, he looks like he should be playing in high school. But being out on the field, though, he's smooth. He plays with confidence. He doesn't look like the major leagues have shell-shocked him at all. He does not look like a deer in headlights. He looks completely natural out there. And I think that's a really positive sign at the beginning of his major league career.
A couple of things that stuck out to me on the broadcast the other night. They said that in talking to some of the Giants players like Crawford and Posey, that Dubon asks all the right questions. He's asking the veteran guys all the right questions, which is really, really good. And then he also took an approach against Kershaw. He had faced Kershaw previously when Kershaw was rehabbing with AAA Oklahoma City. And he happened to face Dubon's San Antonio team at that time. And I think he went 0-for-3 against him and primarily worked him inside. So Dubon went to the plate with a plan on Friday night to look for something inside. Yeah, it was. Even the double that he yanked, that he hit was kind of inside. It was really impressive to see that he could take those skills and apply them right away. I think he's going to be a keeper. I really do. I think he's somebody that I think Farhan wishes he could put Dubon at shortstop full time, to tell you the truth.
Well, yeah, for various reasons, but we'll get to that.
It's so bad.
I know, right? Again on the list. He just looks so smooth out there. And like you said, he's asking other players a lot of questions. You saw this long exchange between him and Posey at the top of the dugout. So
yeah,
and of course he grew up a Giants fan, a transplanted Giants fan, coming here to the with a host family in the United States, in California. But he became a Giants fan. He grew up. I mean, I know they say grew up, but meaning his latter teenage years, not when he was 5, like Brandon Crawford, right? His latter teenage years, going to AT&T Park and watching Buster Posey and Brandon Crawford and these guys and Brandon Belt. So he even said it was so bizarre to be in the infield with Belt to his left and Crawford to his right and Posey behind the dish. And that's got to be incredible. That's like, I mean, me growing up, like, I'm I don't know, I think I'm like 8 or 9 or 10 years younger than Will Clark. But what if it would have been something like that where, I joined the Giants in 1992 and was playing third base or second base by Will Clark. I mean, that's kind of what it was for him. So just an incredible experience. But again, it doesn't look like the game's too fast for him. It looks like
not at all. The fun thing about that night against Kershaw is, I mentioned it later, but the game was broadcast back to Honduras on whatever Fox Sports channel they have in Honduras. So not only was it seen by, his parents in the Bay Area, it was also seen by everybody and all family and friends back in Honduras. It was like everybody got to see him have his shining moment already. Yeah, and I hope it catapults him. I hope it's not a Christian Arroyo situation. Yeah. I hope it's a guy who, because he really does. He seems to be smart. I know he's like jittery at the plate, but it's a timing mechanism with him, and it seems to work. He's got really fast and quick hands through the zone. He seems to be able to direct his hits to right field if he wants to yank one to left field. And the one thing he hasn't done as a Giant yet, he's hit a couple homers, but he hasn't tripled yet. So I figure he'll get home this week, and he'll shoot one to Triple's alley. And, he long strides it pretty well. He's got nice long legs, so he's pretty quick. So he got his first stolen base the other day. So I'm pretty sure he's going to hit a triple this week just to do everything, check everything off the box as a Giant.
Do you think he kind of, I don't know, he reminds me of a body type of Christian Yelich?
Yes.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. It's very athletic in that way. It's funny,
but with a little bit of
Royce
powder.
Clayton was kind of a body type like that almost. Guys like that, but infielder that's like that, not an outfielder, because like you think of like an Adam Jones or somebody who's an outfielder who's skinny like that, but he's taller. I would think Dubon. He's natural. Like nothing seems like it's hard pressed for him. His footwork's good around the bag. His transition's smooth. It transfers smooth. It's fun to watch him play, and he smiles. When he smiles, everybody else smiles. And Giants fans love that. And we will totally embrace something like that.
That was awesome. All right, so you have a note here, and I conceptually I'm not surprised, but I was surprised by the actual number in terms of how many different players the Giants have used this season.
Yeah, it's I started thinking about it a couple months ago, and then I noted it in one of Baggerly's articles the other day when the number was at 60. But the Giants, thanks to I forget what the hell, Peralta, who pitched yesterday for the Giants, he was the 61st player used by the Giants this season. It's a franchise record. It's 10 more than any previous season that the Giants have ever used. So 51 players. Cool. Yeah, it's a 25-man roster for 5 months of the season. It goes to 40. So you kind of figure, yeah, there'll be some turnover. Some pitchers will get hurt, so you bring some guys up, a hitter or two. But, I mean, 61 players used in 2019, and the major league record is 64, set by the 2014 Rangers. So they're starting to get up in that territory, but I don't think there's going to be enough time left to make any more moves. Cueto will be 62, but I still don't think so.
Cueto will be 62. I have a question about that because, the roster's expanded to 40 on September 1st, but the Giants only called up like 4 or 5 extra guys, and they said they would probably call up later. So basically, as of last week, they were not playing with 40 guys on their bench.
No.
They had less than that. So with Sacramento in the PCL Championship Series, I'm sure that's holding some of the guys back from being called up. But at the same time, once that series ends, there may only be a week and a half left of the season. But do you think the Giants are actually going to expand to 40 guys, or do you think they're just going to leave it at 30-ish?
I mean, who knows? Bochy has shown us, especially over the weekend, that he's willing to audition pitchers for management. Mm-hmm. He's not going out saying, no, I want to win every game, like even the game they won 1-0 the other day. So I think he'd be willing to plug in if there was another pitcher or two that they wanted to get a look at. But I don't know how many more hitters. Avellino may come up again, but he's already made his debut with the team. Right. Other than that, I really can't see anybody. Like, I was surprised Shaw got called up and has been with the big club while Sacramento's in the playoffs. That one kind of surprised me. I figured they'd want to use him. But, I mean, this is all Zaidi's fingerprints. Transactions are his thing. I was looking back, and I was wondering, is this like something to get used to that we've seen in the past? Because with the Giants averaged, damn it, I wrote it down. The Giants, where did I write it down? Oh, the Giants, no, that's 49. They averaged about 45 players per season under Bochy until this year. So that's a full 16 more players than he's used to using. Like the high before this year was 49. And Zaidi does have a history of doing this. When he was with LA, he was the general manager for 4 years, and he averaged using 54 different players a year. And you think about that. Those are 4 division-winning ball clubs, 2 pennant-winning ball clubs. And he still used an average of 54 different players a year, which is more than the Giants ever used in Bochy's era. And it was a jump of 5 more players a year from the previous 4 years for the Dodgers. So when he came in, he also did the same thing there. And he learned it from Billy Beane because in the 5 seasons leading up to moving to the Dodgers job, Billy Beane had 50 transactions per season, 50 different players per season on the A's roster. And that's an American League team. So they don't have to plug and play with pinch hitters and stuff like that. They don't need the 25th man as much. So it makes sense that the National League teams like the Dodgers and Giants would be a little bit more. But this is Zaidi. This is, this is what we've come to see, and that's why we've got this parade of relievers. It's tryout season. We've got like spring training in September going on right now, and the Giants are managing to stay competitive. That's the fun thing about it, The fact that there's still only 5 games under 500, but I just found it interesting that the Giants. I mean, I had no idea that they picked up some guy named Peralta and that he pitched yesterday because I tuned out on the game like halfway through.
I actually didn't know that till you just told me now.
Right.
Yeah, when it was down 5-0, I wasn't watching the game. Yeah, I was painting and watching football. So I mean, yeah. Oh my God, that's insane.
Right. There's so many names that just randomly came through this year when you scroll down the list of Giants players.
Like,
and
who?
Yeah, even back to the Michael Reed and Connor Joe that started with the team.
I love how we still remember them. I love it.
But like Bird Smith is a Giant now. You remember Williams Jerez was around. Nick Vincent, Derek Holland was there this year.
Yeah,
Aaron
even Scooter
Altherr.
Jeanette for a little bit. And,
there you go.
These guys that are just, tried out and just spit out. It's like,
Corbin
can you perform?
Joseph.
No. Can you perform? No. Yeah.
Mike Gerber, Zach Green.
Mike Gerber. Yeah, the ex-Tiger. Wow. Zach Green. Oh, my God. It's just crazy.
Gerardo Parra.
Well, Yeah, the National now. He's doing okay with them.
He's
actually.
he's going to the playoffs. That's
yeah. I know,
yeah,
right?
but it's the new normal with the Giants, and I love I think it's really cool to see the synchronicity between Bochy and the front office. He's willing to let kids play. He knows he's got enough talent with the offense that the Giants have been running out lately. He's seen the success that Zaidi has found in finding guys like Yastrzemski and Dickerson at times. Yep. Even though this weekend Bochy shared his frustration with Dickerson and said if he doesn't get on the field, we're not going to be able to see if he can play next year for a full time. And I thought that was interesting.
No, it's been frustrating because, again, when the guy is healthy, he is solid. And you could tell he had to go back for a cortisone shot, and he probably won't be activated till at least Friday. And, he was like 1 for his last 16 or something like that. So clearly it was affecting him. But this has been his rub. This is why he was, ousted from the Padres. I mean, guys know he has talent when he's healthy, but he just isn't healthy. And so what good is that going to do for you? And the Giants benefited off of him more than not this year. Don't get me wrong, but going forward into 2020, if they review his year and go, this is not a freak thing. He doesn't just have freak injuries. This is a consistent and constant and chronic thing. So, Zaidi is definitely the type to forecast the future. He's all about analytics. And go, if this guy was magically healthy, he'd hit 300 for the year with 25 bombs. But guess what? That's not happening. He's going to be hurt half the year, so jettison him. We're going to use his roster spot for someone else. And that's could be the direction they go. You're right, though. I think it will depend on him responding to the cortisone and coming back on the field if he does, and how he does down the last, at that point, freaking 12 games, 11 games, whatever it may be. I don't know if it's enough time to really say anything, but I think it's going to scare a lot of other teams too. Maybe he'll be invited to spring training. I don't know what that contract situation is going to be like, but
no, and it highlights something about Zaidi that I really like before we move into the weekend review. Mm-hmm. The thing I like about Zaidi is he's got a bit of that cold-bloodedness in him. Yeah, he is willing to move on. I'll liken it to the Patriots and a Belichickian way of just saying, okay, you've served your purpose for us. I'm sorry, I don't think that you're going to help us going forward. So good luck. Go get a job somewhere else if you can. But and I do appreciate that cold-bloodedness. I'm not sure if Sabes, it wasn't that he didn't have it as much, but there were different things pulling at his heartstrings than there are for Zaidi. Zaidi's hungry to prove himself.
What have you done for me lately? Yeah.
Right, absolutely, and it's fantastic.
It's a refreshing change. All right, weekend review. So now Tuesday in St. Louis, they lost 1-0. They only had 2 hits, both by Yaz. D-Rod had an excellent game, but again, D-Rod's turning into like an accelerated version of Jeff Samardzija from a couple of years ago. He's just Jekyll and Hyde. He'll have a couple of really amazing starts and then just shit the bed the next one. But one thing I wanted to bring up is that, okay, they lost 1-0. It's a 1-run loss, which is relatively rare in terms of the Giants season. I just want to reflect at how amazing, and we've talked about this before, but here we are, 19 games left in the season. They're going to finish with just incredible records in both extra inning and 1-run games. So extra innings, they're 12-2. They didn't play one this week. The next closest team I could find was Houston. And of course, they're 94-50, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, they have the best record in all of baseball
40,
with the Yankees. They're 10-3 in extra inning games. No one else really is close. There's Boston's 9-5, Yankees are 7-2. There's a couple like that. Atlanta's 11-5, St. Louis 7-3. No one is close to 12-2. 1-run games, they're 33-15. Holy crap! That's
unbelievable.
That is better than 700 ball in 1-run games. Okay, the Dodgers are 25-21. I'm going through the first place teams right now. St. Louis, 21-18. Atlanta, good record. They're the closest one, I think, 27-13. But they'd still have to go 6-2 to match the Giants record. Houston, 23-17. Minnesota, 20-11. Percentage-wise, might be slightly better. Actually, it's not. No, it's not. It's actually worse. And then Yankees 18-14, Tampa Bay 19-15. Anyway, point being, the Giants just, even though they lost 1-0, they end up winning 3 more one-run games the rest of the week. And they won 3 games this week. So it's like all 3 wins were by 1 run. And they just know how to do it. I don't know what it is. It's, again, that thin razor, that blade that they live on. And they teeter to the side of victory more often than not. And I don't know what that aspect comes from for a sub 500 team. You'd expect this kind of record from a playoff team, and that's what's so bizarre about it, is that overall they're a mediocre to slightly under mediocre team. But when it comes to close games, and yes, we all know that like a couple of the games, like Will Smith the other night had a 2-run lead and he allowed a home run. Pollock's 3rd home run of the game to make.
I was going to say, who didn't
right?
allow a home run to Pollock that day, right?
Right, he had 3 that day, but so that we have those games too. But point being, all teams can have those kind of games in 1-run victories. It's remarkable that they're 33-15 again, anywhere close to 500 in those situations. The Giants would be in dead last in the National League West. So.
Well, that's what's made them fun this year. Like, they do have a similar record to last season. Going into September, their record was actually slightly worse, but as September's played out a little bit, it's evened out because they stunk last year in September. Yeah. And, it's funny. You compare the two, they're right around the same, but this year's team was much more enjoyable. It was much more fun. There was a bit of looseness about it. I think last year the expectation with the trade for Longo and Kutch, it was like, all right, one more shot to try to get to the playoffs. And this year, knowing that Bochy was retiring, it was like, okay, just one more year of fun. And then when they got hot, it was like, let's see how far we can ride this wave. And now that they haven't gotten there, they're playing for Bochy and they're playing for 500 and doing those kinds of things. Yeah. So I think it's just a more enjoyable team this year. And that's it. The 1-run games is what makes that happen. If 10 of those games go a different way, we might not be enjoying these. If one of those relievers on Saturday had blown the game, we might not be enjoying those kind of things. And like you said, they'd be in dead last. We would not be talking about Bochy going for 2,000 wins.
So last year at this time, they were 1 game worse. They were 68-75, which is pretty interesting. Now, they only won 5 games all of last September. I believe they've already won 3 games or 4 games this September, so they're almost there. But what's really curious is I'm looking at their extra inning and 1-run games at this point last year, not the whole season, just this point. They were 10-9 in extra inning games and 24-26 in 1-run games. It's curious to me, what if you had a magic wand and you could say, okay, last year, let's give them this year's 1-run record, right? They would be like 9 games better in the win column and 11 games better in the 1-run in the loss column. So that's about a 10-game swing. They were 11 games back of the Rockies then. So essentially, They would be around 1 game back of the Rockies last year at this time if they owned the same 1-run record. Anyway, that I just bring that up because it provides the point that I was making, is that those 1-run games were so critical to the Giants being competitive this year.
Yeah, and it's thankfully. Whew.
Yeah, thankfully. Otherwise, we'd be talking about freaking the Baltimore Orioles or something like that.
Right. I mean, we wouldn't be having the countdown to 2,000. I'm glad we got that going for us.
Yeah, we didn't think that was going to happen. All right, so Wednesday, they had a great game. It was a back-and-forth game in St. Louis. It was the only game they won, unfortunately, in St. Louis. I admit I was watching the game, and then I had to do some stuff, and my phone was blowing up with all the lead changes. And then when the Cardinals had that 4-run inning in the 7th or whatever it was, and they went up 8-7, I was just like, of course, right after the Giants score 3. And I wasn't feeling too good about things, but then Kevin Pillar said, don't worry, buddy, I got your back.
High drive to left. Osuna back. Out of here. Pillar's 4th hit gives the Giants the lead. And that's home run for Pillar, number 21.
21.
Yeah, that was great. Pillar had a 4-hit day that game, and he has been, I mean, I don't think anyone can deny he's been the Giants MVP this year.
100%.
I mean, who else is it? Who else is it? I mean, great seasons by Yaz and Shark and Mad Bum to a certain extent, but I think there's no doubt that individual MVP of this year has got to be Pilar for the Giants.
Do you think he's going to win the Willie Mack Award? Because I'm starting to think he is.
You know what? I would say he's absolutely in the running, but I think performance-wise, because performance really has nothing to do with the Willie Mack Award. It's about team heart, chemistry, blah, 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 all those things, right?
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Vogt.
Yeah.
Vogt has been such an uplifting spirit to the Giants bench. He started the whole T thing. He's, I don't know. That's just my feeling. I could be wrong, but Vogt's been well loved by all the teams he's ever played for, the Brewers, the A's, now the Giants.
That's true.
I think that he's a perfect candidate for the Willie Mack Award. So I'm going to guess Vogt first and Pilar number 2.
Well, if they do the fan voting, if they let us have a vote this year, I'm going to vote for Pilar because he has totally changed what I thought. I was not happy with the Pilar trade, and I was ready for them to trade him off.
I was fine with it, but I had no idea it was going to be. I was like, that's a meh thing, right?
He's got career highs in everything, hitting at Oracle Park, and we talked about that last week. And it's just amazing to see because this was on the road, so he continues with that, and he also does seem to be a leader. So I'm so glad to be 100% wrong on how Pilar was.
Yeah,
because he bailed out Bumgarner on that game against the Cardinals. Bumgarner allowed 6 runs, and it was the first time in history that Bumgarner had ever allowed 6 runs or more, and the Giants won the game.
And that's not surprising considering the lack of run support they typically have.
Right.
So, so Mad Bum, obviously, they've been in the second half something like 11-2 or 11-3 in his starts. This is one of those starts where you're thinking, okay, he doesn't have his stuff, but they bailed him out. They flat plain bailed him out. So thank you, Kevin Pilar and others. That game, he wasn't the only one to contribute. The next day, on Thursday, that was the day you were talking about with the Bears game. They just, wow, that was horrible. Logan Webb, who's been okay so far after being called up. No, hey, by the way, everyone, here's Eric's notes. Usually we type things out. Logan Webb's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Very Trumpy in there. I like it. That was good.
Oh well, it's a book. Alexander's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
The hook line
there
from the book
is.
Alexander says over and over, I think I'll move to Australia. And I'm sure that's how Logan Webb felt. Like, he just absolutely got hammered. It was like 6 or 8 runs, and I turned the game off because I was all ready for football. I put on NFL Network in the middle of the day, and I don't do that. I'm a baseball guy. I was all fired up for the Bears because the Giants weren't doing anything for me at all, and he did. He had a bad day. Yeah, that was my literary background with Alexander and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day.
Yeah, see, I'm a scientist. I'm like, what? I don't understand that. So
right.
Good reference, good knowledge.
I was raised by teachers, English teachers. Well, the Giants bounced back, though.
Yeah, they go on Friday. What did they do?
They beat LA. Giants went in, and they had to face Kershaw. So it was the last series that Bochy, and we talked about the ceremony that they had when they gave him the Koufax jersey, and it's the last series for Bochy as a visiting manager, and the first thing up was Kershaw, and Kershaw only lasted 4 innings against the Giants on Friday night, his shortest outing ever by a full inning. He had never lasted less than 5 full innings against the Giants in their history. And they did it. Pilar had a great 12-pitch at bat. He walked to knock him out in the top of the 5th, so it was 4+ innings. And Bochy then pulled strings perfectly, pinch hit Yaz when he needed to hit a double to the wall, pinch hit Belt when he needed to get an intentional walk before Dewey got a base hit. And the Giants won 5-4. They were able to hold on when the bullpen leaked a little bit towards the end. You mentioned Will Smith had to in the 9th inning, A.J. Pollock hit a homer off him. He had 3 homers in that game. It's funny to think that the Giants won a 1-run game in L.A. when one player on L.A. hit 3 home runs in a game, and it was a great example, and it was a fun game to watch. It was like Twitter was lit up that night. It was an old school Giants Bochy night. It was a good memory from this 2019 season.
Well, what was crazy about it is that, like you said, Pollock had 3 home runs against the Giants, and you're thinking, okay, a Dodger's going to hit 3 home runs against the Giants. You'd be like, okay, they're going to lose. And it'd be like, the Giants only scored 5 runs. Wait, but you just told me a Dodger hit 3 home runs by himself? Oh, they're definitely going to lose. Well, the Dodgers only scored 4 runs. So basically that meant the rest of the offense did jack. In fact, the Dodgers only had 6 hits that night against Samardzija. 2 home runs were given up by Shark to A.J. Pollock, and then 1 later, of course, by Will Smith. But anyway, Maricio Dubon, who already had 1 home run under his belt, came up to the plate. Now, this audio is a little odd. They have some Vin Scully tribute on audio during the game, and so Dwayne Kuiper was very good in allowing that to proceed until the ball hit the foul pole, but here it is.
And only walk-off home run Nolan Ryan ever surrendered in his career.
It is out of here. And this game is tied. The kid hits his 2nd home run in his career. He does it off of Kershaw. He's now 2 for 2. He's got a double and a home run against Kershaw.
Well, we said before the game, if you're a young player, you want to face an icon, and Kershaw is that. He said if he gets a hit tonight, he's going to be calling home. If he gets 2 hits, he's going to be running for office. And I think that John said it, and I feel the same way. I'll vote for him.
Doobie. Yeah, that was great. Like you pointed out earlier about his 0 for 3 against him and the inside pitch. I mean, same with the double against Kershaw. Boy, he turned on that thing. He threw his elbows inside and got those wrists out. And it almost went foul. Obviously, it hit the foul screen. In fact, in that replay, Kershaw is coming off the mound down the third base side, and he starts to do the whole all of us baseball players did this back in the day. But he does the whole lean. His body's like at a right angle. He's just like willing that thing mentally with his telekinetic powers to go foul, and it didn't happen. So I love it when baseball players do that. I don't know what it is. We all do it. It's so funny. It's like it has no relevance on anything. It doesn't give you a better angle on the ball. But
yeah, we have no control whatsoever over the outcome. But it's golfers do it too, I think.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of thing.
Oh, right.
Bowlers are other ones that do it. It totally is. And it was funny, though, because I remember I was watching that game live as they were showing that thing. That's where the Nolan Ryan tidbit came from. Yeah. And, it was Vin Scully's talking, and then all of a sudden I'm, already screaming because when he hit it, it looked really good off the bat. And it was like, oh, go away from this, and poor Kipe didn't get a full home run call on a Doobie homer off of Kershaw. But well, what are you going to do? That was a fun night watching him. Doobie with 3 hits. I mean, that's got to be the highlight of his baseball career so far.
No, absolutely. So the Giants go in on Saturday. You're thinking, okay, they're playing the best team in the National League. Tyler Beatty's starting. All right, here we go again. The kid has had flashes of brilliance, but he just doesn't seem to have it. He's a little wild, and he gives it the home run ball. He goes 5 innings of shutout ball, but a big moment came out in the 5th when the bases were loaded with 2 outs, and Cody Bellinger came up. And you're thinking, all right, Bochy wants to win this game. He's got to take him out. He's got to take him out because he's either going to crush it for a double or a grand slam, or he's going to walk him. There's just no way he's going to get him out. Bochy was like, we don't have anything to play for. I'm just going to let the kid in. And he did. And he just let him say, you need to mature. You need to learn in these situations. And what better situation to learn in a relatively non-pressure situation. Now, that's not what he's thinking on the mound. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you Beatty is not thinking, oh, the season doesn't matter. I'm just going to throw whatever. But it's not a playoff game, and they're not going for a playoff spot. So it's a good situation for Bochy to have chosen to let him in or to let him stay.
I was all about that. I was on it when it was happening. That was, I think, maybe my favorite sequence of the entire weekend, aside from Doobie, was Bochy. You could see making that decision. All right, I'm going to let this kid sink or swim here. I'm going to let him do his thing, see if he can do it, because sooner or later it's poop or get off the pot time. And it was for
Totally.
Beatty, and he was able to come through. I mean, he walked Turner, and then you're freaking out. I mean, it's Bellinger, the left-handed, right-handed matchup, and on a 2-1 pitch, he's able to get him to fly out to left field. So it was a great job by Beatty. It was a great job for Bochy to show confidence. The one thing I didn't understand was he let Beatty bat in the bottom of the fifth. You've got 20 million effing players on your bench, man. Let Jalen Davis or somebody else or Corbin Joseph or Michael Hayweather, one of those guys take it.
I didn't see anything after the game about that, but I was wondering the same thing. Why let him bat and then take him out for the 6th inning? So it must have been a conversation. I don't know, a conversation or something that happened, but I didn't hear otherwise.
Maybe they wanted him to believe he was going to go pitch the 6th. It was a part of the, confidence building for him. I don't know. There was just absolutely no reason for it.
No, there wasn't. But, the parade of relievers, Sean Anderson looked amazing. He had a ridiculous number of swing and misses in his 1 inning of pitching, which exceeded most of his starts of, 5 innings. So he had some really electric stuff. And then it comes down to Gustave, who comes in the 9th for the save. Will Smith with the previous night pitching and a sore back, a stiff back. So Gustave comes in and immediately walks the first batter, and you're thinking, oh boy, the kid is a little nervous, whatever. And every time I've seen him pitch, he looks pretty stone cold. He doesn't look like a kid who has nerves, especially with that big dome hat over his dreadlocks or whatever. But he had no problem. He got the next guy and then had the next batter ground out into a double play. So it was what looked like might be a stressful torture inning ended up being a fairly routine save, and the Giants end up closing out the game 1-0 against the NL West leaders with a parade of really rookie and unproven pitchers. So I tipped my cap to Bochy on that one. That was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was fun to watch him moving around. Gustave, I think, I honestly think that Zaidi has talked to Bochy about how he thinks Gustave is future closer material. Yeah. And this was a shot for Bochy to give him because Smith had thrown 20, 25 pitches the night before. It was stressful when Will Smith struck out Will Smith to end the game on Friday night. I forgot to mention that. We got to get jiggy with it, and the Dodgers didn't. And
I saw some memes like it was a meme of Will Smith, the actor, going, on the strikeout. Yeah, no, it was very meta. I loved it.
It was so much fun. And I thought it was so funny. Sam Coonrod, he comes in after Andrew Suarez comes in to face Seager. And then Sam Coonrod comes in to face Justin Turner. And he hits him, and Bochy just shows this frustration, like, I'm done with you. And he goes and he brings Abad in, and Abad gets the double play ground out, and this is in the bottom of the 8th, and he shows emotion and stuff like that. It was also a succession of pitchers like picking each other up, like all the bullpen guys knew that they had each other. For sure. It was that kind of a thing, and I really liked that they let Gustave take it because he's big. He's imposing, and with that flat brim and his hair hanging out and how tall he is, he's kind of an imposing guy out there. So I can totally see them thinking about him as future closing material because not only is his fastball wicked, but he can throw a changeup on you that you're not expecting, and you'll look like a fool swinging through it.
No, he throws hard, 95, 96. So there's no joke. So we move into yesterday, Sunday, and the Giants are thinking about a sweep, but unfortunately that just wasn't in the cards. The Giants only mustered 4 hits. Now, granted, the Dodgers only mustered 5 hits, but they were the benefactors of an error the Giants committed, and so D-Rod was tagged with the loss. He actually pitched 4 2/3, only gave up 2 earned runs, but 5 runs total, 3 hits, but 3 walks really killed him, and then, of course, 2 bombs. And even though the home run was, unearned runs because it was after the error, the fact is you still gave up the home run. It's not like it wouldn't have happened if you kept pitching. So statistically speaking, he was saved in his ERA a little bit, but in reality, he just didn't perform. So they lose 5-0, but regardless, if it was 1 run, Giants would have lost. They just didn't, they didn't muster any offense, so it's going to happen. Hey, look, they go down to L.A. and they win 2 out of 3. I mean, I'm perfectly happy with that, no matter what the standings are.
The way they won those first 2 games, you just felt like they ran out of steam on Sunday. And when a team's not in contention, they have to kind of kick an extra gear in. As you said, we play baseball, and some teams you're on that are winning, so you're going to be in the playoffs. You're competing for something. Yeah. Some teams aren't as good, and so you have to kick in that extra gear to get yourself up to play that day. And maybe they really did give all their juice. I know the way to say it. Please don't. Yeah. Give everything that they could. You know what I mean?
Well,
and I totally
the Dodgers,
get it, and I don't blame them.
The Dodgers have, the NL West locked up, and they have the number 1 seed in the NL probably locked up. But they do not have the overall number 1 seed locked up. So the Astros and the Yankees both have a 1-game lead on the Dodgers. So if they were to make the World Series again, obviously they want to have home field advantage. I don't have the stats up right now. I should. But all of those teams are incredible at home. In fact, here we go. Yankees and Astros are both 94 and 50. The Dodgers are 93 and 52. So that's like a game and a half behind those guys. Now, Yankees are 53 and 22 at home. Think about 53 and
That's
22.
Ridiculous. Yeah,
Astros,
something like they haven't lost a series at home since April.
Astros even better. 55 and 17. Wow. What the hell? That's like 750 or better ball. That's almost 800 ball at home. Right? I mean, like 60 and 20 would be 800 ball, and they're 55 and 17. They're so close to 80% of their wins, or 80% winning percentage at home. And the Dodgers are 56 and 20. Very close to the Astros, a little behind them. So it makes a huge difference because the Dodgers are 37 and 32 at home or away. Houston 39 and 33 away. Yankees 41 and 28, a little bit better away. So clearly, all three of these teams would love to have the home field advantage in the World Series should they make it there because their home record is so much better, unlike the Giants, than their road record. By the way,
a couple of years ago, the Yankees and the Astros, they played in ALCS a couple of years ago where the home team won every game.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that. So the Giants, of course, to review, have a losing record at home at 30 and 38, yet are above 500 on the road at 39 and 36. So kind of weird, but whatever. That's just the way they are. So that's why they need to get a little bit healthier this homestand, especially against the Pirates and the Marlins. All right, so let's talk about you take the who's hot list, Eric.
All right, who's hot? It's still not a giant list, even though they won 3 or 4 games. Let's remember that all of them were 1-run games, and one was 1-0. But Buster Posey, he hit 400 this week. He was 6 for 15 on the road trip, but they were all singles. I think he had a 3-hit night one night too, so that kind of skews that as well. He only played in 4 of the 7 games, which I found interesting. But it is September, too. And that's going to happen. So,
yeah.
I mean, Garcia got to start at first. We saw. Did we see Slater at first one time? Maybe. I don't know. There's been so many juggling and moving. It's tough to tell. But Yaz keeps being on fire. Yaz is definitely the Giants Rookie of the Year. He hit 333 this past road trip. He was 8 for 24. He had 2 doubles and a home run. He had a home run in St. Louis. I think that was in the game that Pilar hit the late home run as well. And he came up with that big double on Friday night against the Dodgers when he was brought into the game to counter the move to the righty. I don't remember the name of the righty. Florio, I think, is the one who came in. Yeah, that was it. So, Yaz came up with a big hit.
Is he at 18 or 19 home runs now?
He's at 19 now.
Yeah, okay.
He's one away from being the first Giants rookie to hit 20 home runs since I want to say Chili Davis. There was a stat that they brought up, but I just didn't remember off the top of my head. And that's actually why I didn't add it to that. I was thinking about it.
I thought Buster Posey. Didn't Buster Posey hit...
No, it was his MVP year.
No. You're right. Yeah, he hit 18 his rookie year. Yep, you're right. Yeah, it was 24 he hit his MVP year. Yep.
And then speaking of rookies, Doobie was, hot. We talked about him enough. Doobie is the blaze of this podcast. He had 368 on this road trip, 7 for 19. He had 2 doubles and he homered twice. He got his first career. Let's not forget. in a game in St. Louis the other night. I don't remember who he hit it off of, but I do believe it was one of St. Louis's better pitchers. So it was kind of neat that he's, touched up some good pitchers. He's driven in 4 runs, and interestingly, he's only struck out twice over the past week in 19 at-bats, and he walked once, so I guess 20 plate appearances. So he doesn't walk much, but he doesn't strike out much, which is good because you put the ball in play, things happen, and he's a hustle player. So that's our Who's Hot list, because that's about it. Even though Pilar hit that homer, I looked him up. He was kind of middle of the road. A couple of guys were middle of the road. Sure. So these 3 really were Who's Hot this week.
Yeah. Buster Posey, we all know the struggles he's had this year. He's only hitting 257. His career average is 302, so he's in danger of dipping below that here. His career WAR is 41.8, but his WAR this year is only 0.7. Kevin Pillar's WAR is higher. Brandon Crawford's at 0.5 actually. But I mean, when you start thinking about a guy who's making $20 million a year and his WAR is less than a game above a average AAA player, that's not good. And I love the guy. He's one of my favorite players, and I feel for him. I don't know what's going on physically, but something has happened. I don't know if it. I mean, obviously his injury in 2011 had no effect on 2012 when he became the MVP. So that's not it. I don't know if it's just wear and tear on his body.
I mean, he had the hip thing.
Yeah, well, of course, the hip thing, and he had a surgery. And we all thought this year was going to be a lot different, and it hasn't been. Last year, he hit 5 home runs in 105 games. This year, he's hit 6 home runs in 104 games. So virtually identical. Last year, he hit 284, though. This year, 257. Last year, 41 RBI. Now he's at 35. 35 That's shocking.
Wow.
It's shocking when you see that, Eric. 35 RBI.
Those are 8-hole hitter catcher numbers. That's what those are. No offense to Buster, but those are 8-hole hitter catcher numbers. That's what those are. Those are Ron Karkovice numbers.
Seriously. And, prior to 2018, 17 he had 67, 16 he had 80, 15 he had 95, 14 he had 89, 13 he had 72, 12 is MVP year, he had 103. So, all of those years he was averaging in the 70s, 80s, 90s, so probably 80s when you average it all out. In the last 2 years, 41 and 35. It's bad. It's bad, and I love the guy, but they're all talking, there's been 3 years of talk about, he's a Hall of Famer, he's a Hall of Famer. Well, yeah, if he had continued on that stretch of those numbers. But the last 2, almost 3 years, he's really plummeted, and unless he has a significant turnaround or he plays another 10 years at mediocre numbers, I don't know if he's a lock for the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's 139 career home runs. It's like he has 3 world championships, and that's going to help his case immensely. But just statistically speaking, his average is great at 302. I just don't. I don't know. I don't think it's a closed case. I think
he might need a move to first and a renaissance.
Well, I think that's what he needs. I think he does need. Joey Bart, of course, is in the wings. Next year, we could see him get called up at some point. I mean, Buster Posey was called up fairly early in 2009 at the end of the year, and then he took over for Molina in 2010. But, I'm hoping that would be a good case for him to rejuvenate his career, but he just may be physically incapable of being the player that he once was. And it's sad, but it's kind of true. I mean, Barry Bonds hit more than half as many career home runs that Buster Posey has hit in 1 year. It's like, and he's been playing for 11 years. Anyway, let's talk about who's not. So Brandon Crawford, hey, he's back on the list again. We're not trying, guys. We're not trying to pick on Brandon Crawford. We're really not. I love the guy. I really do. I pull for him all of the time, and he's going to be a Giant next year no matter what. But 1 for 16 on the road trip. He's down to 224 this year. I mean, it's his career low in terms of batting average, so it's not going so well for him. Brandon Belt was 2 for 24 on the trip. That's an 095 clip again. Pretty much one of his worst career years with the Giants. His power is
227. Yeah, he's at 227 for the year. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
I mean, 227, that's just stupid. I mean, if a guy hits 40 home runs for you. 227 is acceptable, but not at these numbers. Longo 4 for 25, but he's been fairly hot in the second half, so that's okay. Slater 2 for 13, 154 clip, and then Kershaw, you got called up like you said, surprisingly, before the PCL playoffs. He's 0 for 7 since getting called up. So anyway, that's your who's not. So transactions, I guess we probably did have some this week, but I don't.
Well, yeah, I got the page open. I can highlight the ones that Corbin Joseph, like we mentioned, He got claimed while we were recording last week, and he has played. Jalen Davis has been brought up to the major league level, but he's 1 for 10 so far. Trevor Gott went on the 60-day DL. I don't know who the heck Ricardo Pinto is. Sam Selman came back up with the big club the other day. Another left-handed pitcher that adds to the parade. Zach Green was optioned to the 60-day list so that he could be taken off the 40-man roster to make room for Wandy Peralta, who was claimed off waivers from the Cincinnati Reds on the 7th and activated on the 8th and apparently pitched yesterday. Then none of us knew about because we get totally tuned out of the game.
Yeah, I was like, who is this Peralta guy? I don't know who he is. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. That was the transactions this week. There's only like 5 or 6. It was a mild week for anxiety.
Isn't that crazy? That's a mild week. Most teams are like 1 transaction a week. Giants are like bloop, 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 bloop. Yeah. All right. So minor league report, we would have referred to it. The other teams are out of the playoffs, but Sacramento, the River Cats, did win their semifinal round, and they won 3 games to 2. They were down 2 games to 1. Yeah. And they ended up winning behind the bat of Avellino, who actually hit a couple of home runs in a couple of games. And they came back and won that series 3-2. So they're going to face the Round Rock team, which is the Houston AAA team in the PCL championship. It's a 5-game series starting on Tuesday, tomorrow night.
Yeah, the Round Rock team beat the Iowa Cubs. So I almost got to have a matchup of Cubs-Giants in the AAA.
Yeah, that would have been interesting, huh?
Yeah, that would have been fun. It's funny, though, because the Cubs, because that ended, they just called somebody up because Javi Baez fractured a finger. He's out for the season. And then Addison Russell apparently really took one off the face. So
that was a rough sequence for the Cubs. I feel kind of bad for them. So, Javier Baez, no matter how much I kind of distaste his flair and flamboyance.
I don't. I love the guy.
He's a one hell of a player. He's so solid. Quickest tag in MLB by far.
Yeah, his hands, they're just amazing, and that's what I appreciate. I'm a guy who had quick hands though, so I think that's why I appreciate those kind of guys. I never worried about fastball pitchers. I never worried about my hands around the bag, because I can always get around them. I could pull a fastball pitcher still if I needed to, or shoot it the other way, depending on how the defense is playing.
Growing up, I never thought, because I played a lot of second base and a lot of third base too. So you have stolen bases and tag plays at the bases. And, I always prided myself in trying to be as quick to the tag as I could, but I never thought about it as a skill in the major leagues. Right?
No, not the way Javi makes it look.
Catcher. Yeah, you think of the catcher and the pitcher. Like, pitcher needs to have a quick release, catcher needs to have a good throw and a quick release. And you're like, the tag is the tag, whatever. It's about the throw. The way Javier Baez makes it work, he can take a certain percentage of throws where an average second baseman would have missed the tag. He gets the tag down, and he is so unbelievably quick. I mean, he's like almost, that glove's coming down as soon as he catches that ball. I mean, it is the quickest tag in all of baseball, and it's an art form. He's very flamboyant with it too, but he's so just like boom, 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 and he's just, slow-mo it. You see that 120, 200 frames per second kind of camera work, and you're like, holy shit, there's no way he would have been out with any other second baseman. But he made it work.
It's natural agility combined with a tremendous baseball instinct. And honestly, it's the type of thing that I think we would have said about somebody like Willie Mays had we got to see him play.
Yeah, no, I agree.
As far as like instinct, hands, stuff like that kind of stuff.
He's so smooth out there, and that was really unfortunate, that injury. Now, do you know how long he's out? Is he going to be available for any part of the playoffs?
I don't know about the playoffs. I just know that they think he's going to be out the rest of the season. That's as much as I read. Today's the MRI, which all Cubs fans are like, why did it wait so long? And why did it take? Cubs are dumpster fire, man. They better hope they just lose the wild card game and move on from Madden. Man, it is. You don't want to be a Cubs fan right now. Like, we're sitting pretty compared to them. I'm not even kidding.
Well,
we feel better about our team than they do, and they've got Chris Bryant. It's just ridiculous.
We'll talk about it later in the year when the season ends, but just very briefly, the Giants are going to be doing a managerial search over the offseason. And there definitely is talk about Joe Madden not being with the Cubs. So, because of all this stuff that's going on. Now, I love Joe Madden. I think he's a fun guy. He makes questionable decisions, though. Do you think that, just not talking about anyone else, do you think that he would be on the Giants' radar this offseason?
I just hope not. I guess that's my best answer because Joe doesn't know how to manage a bullpen at all. He's using Derek Holland in high leverage situations.
I know, right? And I'm like, dude, wait, I'm a Giants fan. I can tell you about him. Don't put him in that situation.
I was talking to somebody the other night who was a Cubs writer about it, and I was like, I don't understand why he puts him in any high leverage situation.
I know.
He was our white flag. He was our mop-up guy. And it would be like the reverse Dusty Baker of when Dusty went from us to them, and I don't even want that. I don't care how the Cubs even finish. The Giants need a fresh voice, and I'm sure we're going to get into this, if not towards the end of the season, in the next few episodes, but maybe right after the season ends in the managerial search type thing. But I kind of want like a fresh new face. I want
I agree.
Not old faces on this ball club in the overall aspect. I want them to feel like they're rejuvenating and injecting energy. Guys like Dave Roberts and Scott Servais, and these are not guys I want, but guys like that are younger. Mike Matheny, younger guys.
Yeah, let's just get us
like
an old catcher again, Like, catchers seem to do well with the Giants.
It's true. Matheny might be somebody, but I think old management might have thought that because they were connected to him. But Zaidi, I think Zaidi will go for his own guy. I think he'll give guys like Bam Bam and maybe Wotus a fair shot, but I think he's going to clean house completely.
No, I think there's going to be a bit of a cleaning. Yeah, because he had to exist with Bruce Bochy and his staff this year. And this is the transition year. And so next year, once Bochy is gone and he doesn't have those hooks into his staff, Zaidi will feel like, okay, procedurally and emotionally, I can go ahead and clean house. And, I let it go a year, and now he's going to bring in the guys that he believes in. So no matter how hard it may be for guys like Wotus and Mullins or Bam Bam and these guys, but I expect that too. I expect someone coming in who's very fresh, and he's got to be on the analytical side. He has to be. He's got to be in simpatico with Zaidi. So.
Well, like the Gabe Kapler hiring in Philly. Gabe Kapler came from L.A. with Zaidi. He was the farm director in L.A. before Philly hired him to be their manager. Now, I'm not saying I want Gabe Kapler. I don't like the way he manages a bullpen either. But managing a bullpen is a very fine art. We've been spoiled with Bruce Bochy for like 12 years. And I think that's one of those things I'm going to miss. I think that's why I really enjoyed that 1-0 game. I enjoyed that one more than Friday night's game because of the sheer Bochitude that game had.
Well,
Bochitude.
I believe in analytics overall over the long haul of a season. I really do. It's just like you go to Vegas, right? That's why the casinos make money. Okay. In any given night, you can play against the casinos and play by the book, and your statistical advantage is about 0.5% to 1% below the casino. So over the long haul, over a whole year, with millions of players, that's why the casinos make money, because they have that 0.5 to 1% chance of winning. That's their edge, and that's where they make their money. Now, any given night, someone can walk in and either play by the book or not play by the book and do shitty, stupid decisions and win millions of dollars.
Yep.
I feel like over the long haul of a season, a manager who knows how to play by analytics, they're going to be maybe a few games higher up than someone who plays by their gut. But when it comes to a playoff series, that's that one night in Vegas. That's that one night you're feeling the itch to bet a certain way that you shouldn't, and you win. because of the gut, because of what you feel, because of the conversation you had. Now, I know that's a non-human element, so it's a little bit of a bad analogy, but Bruce Bochy knows his players, and that's why you don't know your chips, you don't know your dice, you can't talk to them or whatever. So it's a little bit, disconnect there. But Bochy over a long season may or may not do as well as someone who plays by the analytics, but when it comes to the postseason, he knows exactly what strings to pull, and that's where his strength has been. So it'll be interesting to see, if they get a young person or someone who is totally analytical, because that's when you can potentially run into trouble. It's like flipping a coin. It's like, what do you want to bet? Heads or tails or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, you can say the percentages, but one given night in Game 7, are you going to put in a string of relievers? Or are you going to call out Madison Bumgarner because he talked to you and told you, I can do this, coach. I'm going to shut them down. And he did. And that's the difference, I think.
It is. He showed that it's amazing how much better he is at that than all other managers during this. He's better than that against his contemporaries, And in that throw in of Bobby Cox, Tony La Russa was good at managing series. I'll say that because he was also very good at the bullpen. But like Bochy's way better than a Madden. Like that's why I feel like a Madden would feel like a step down. We'd be like, why are we wasting our time with this clown old guy?
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. All right, so this week in Giants history, we have a good one that you have here from September 8th of 2009.
Madison Bumgarner made his major league debut, and when they showed it, it was so weird to see him clean-shaven with short hair.
So young, I know. It's like a little baby.
He threw 5 1/3 innings. He gave up 5 hits, 2 runs. They were both solo home runs. Those solo home runs were given up to Chase Headley and Kevin Kuzminoff.
Kuzminoff, oh my God, I haven't heard of him.
Right. He only walked 1, so that's pretty good. And he struck out 4 Padres. And that was the beginning of Bum. He was a September call-up in 2009. I believe that was after a year in, I want to say San Jose or maybe Augusta, because I know he won Pitcher of the Year in Augusta one year, so probably Augusta at that point.
Probably because he pitched in San Jose with Buster Posey.
Right, and Posey came up that, I don't know, but it was 10
years
years
ago. He came
ago.
up in 2009 as well, yeah.
Yeah, he came up that September. I know he didn't get much action. 10 years ago, think about that. 10 full, a whole decade has passed since Madison Bumgarner made his major league debut. Here's some of the names that played for both the Padres and the Giants in this game 10 years ago. On the Padres, they still had David Eckstein. Adrian Gonzalez was the Padres' first baseman. Adrian Gonzalez, the guy who played for then Boston, L.A., and I'm sure he ended up somewhere else. Will Venable, Max Amali's kid. Nick Hundley was the starting catcher for the San Diego Padres for Madison Bumgarner's debut. Old friend Kevin Correa was the opposing pitcher for Madison Bumgarner's debut. Wow. And that was back when they had like Heath Bell. And over on the Giants side of it, it was Uribe, Randy Wynn, John Bowker pinch hit, Bobby Howry got an inning, Aaron Rowand, Brandon Metters pitched, and Nate Shearholtz got in the game. So it's a who's who of 10 years ago. So it's been 10 years since Madison Bumgarner made his debut. It's crazy to think that he has been in baseball for 10 years.
Well, this is, when you include that 2009 call-up, this is his 11th year of professional baseball, or Major League Baseball, I should say.
Right.
Will Clark played 8 full seasons in the major leagues with the Giants.
So weird.
Okay, so Madison Bumgarner has been with the Giants for 2+ almost 3 seasons longer than Will Clark, and that's and same with Buster Posey, exact same thing. That's my head check. That is where, my whole life, I'm sitting here in my office with Will Clark signed, pictures and signed hats and his jerseys all over my office here, and realizing that he literally only played with the Giants for 8 years, and he was with Texas for 5, and then Baltimore for 1, and then of course St. Louis at the end as well. Baltimore for 1.5, and then St. Louis for a half a season in 2000. He played 15 years total, including all of those teams. Madison Bumgarner's already at 11. it gives me a little bit of a understanding why the younger generation is, Buster Posey is my favorite player. Madison Bumgarner is my favorite player. Brandon Crawford, these kind of guys. It's understandable, but mind-blowing because time dilates in different ways for different people. And I thought Will Clark was a Giant for life. Even when he moved to Texas, I just still thought, he was a Giant for like 25 years. Nope, 8. That's it. And his number was retired.
It brings up the point because we both grew up with those kind of eras. Can you imagine being a 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kid right now who was in the prime years of 9, 10, 11, 12 years old when the Giants started winning championships?
Exactly.
And so how skewed it must be for them and how impactful guys like Bumgarner and Posey must have on them. And you wonder, is it a stronger impact than Will Clark necessarily had on you? Or it was for me, Robbie Thompson back in the day, and then Barry Bonds once he signed with the team. You have to wonder, do they get that same impression, or is it a stronger impression because of the World Series wins? Or did we identify with ours more because we weren't out here winning World Series and neither were our favorites like Will Clark, Barry Bonds, and Thompson?
I know. It's crazy. The Giants, with Will Clark made playoffs in 87, 93 they had, or of course 89 with the World Series. 93 they had their 103 wins that of course was extinguished on the last game of the season. And that was it for Will Clark as far as playoffs are concerned.
Yeah, that was the game too. I think that was his final game.
It was, yeah, because it was 93. And then you think about, because he went in 94 to Texas. And then you think of, you're right, like some young kid who followed Buster or Madison, and he won in 10, and he won in 12, and they won in 14. It's like, they're World Series champions, Madison Bumgarner single-handedly won one. Buster Posey, with his grand slam against Cincinnati and his MVP year, single-handedly won another. It's like, Will Clark never did that. Never did that. So yeah, it's interesting. Doesn't change my mind. It's just like
no, not at all. It makes me wonder, totally in 1987, had the Giants won the World Series, how would 8-year-old me have reacted at that time? And then 89, that could have been their, 2-time.
I'm so mad at Candy Maldonado. Candy Maldonado missing that ball in the lights at Busch Stadium. Anyway, I'm not bitter. Nor 2002 with Russ Ortiz getting taken out. Anyway, okay. So that was a great little visit in Giants history, more than just the Bumgarner debut. So coming up, the Giants have 4 against the Pirates at home, starting tonight, and then, of course, 3 against Miami. The big news, of course, is Johnny Cueto going tomorrow night, Tuesday, and I'm really looking forward to it. I don't care how he does. He was great with Sacramento, so I don't expect horrible things, but if he goes 5 innings, 2 earned runs, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's just going to be fun to see him on the mound again. I miss Johnny.
Yeah. I mean, he's not playing for anything now, but he signed with the Giants through next year. So, it'll be a good audition into the next year. And, we're back to an even year, and Zaidi's in full control, and good things. I don't know. I feel good about next year. I really do.
So do I.
I'm not, expecting a World Series championship, but I'm expecting an above 500 year next year already. And we'll get to this later when we finish the season and get into our preseason predictions and all that stuff like that. But right now I'm feeling pretty good about things. So
yeah, I'm impressed. Zaidi has, I was screaming all along, there's no reason to tear it all down. He never tore it all down anywhere else. And he has shown that he didn't have to tear it all down just to start rebuilding. And I think that's why we have such a positive outlook on everything going forward.
I agree. All right, so that's going to do it for episode 179 of the TortureCast. You can follow us collectively at TortureCast. Like us on Facebook at facebook.torturecast.com. You can also view our podcast, listen to our podcast, and look at our articles at torturecast.com. You can follow us individually at ChadK21 for myself and at 2 Out Hits for Eric. That's with the number 2. Eric, anything else to pimp?
I'm going to recommend I'm gonna start recommending books at the end of the episode because I've gotten all my books now, and I'm reading more baseball books again. And I started rereading Ball 4, and it made me think about that. So I'm gonna recommend Ball 4 by Jim Bouton. If you haven't read it before, you should. It'll crack you up. It is baseball back in the late 60s, early 70s, so it is a different time with greenies and whatnot and things like that. But it was the first book to give an inside look at baseball life and athletes and what really goes on behind the scenes. So it's a pretty easy read. He writes at a very easy readable level. And like I picked it up the other day and I almost read through half of it in one sitting, just rereading it again. It was so enjoyable to hear certain phrases by players. Like one player came up behind him as he was shagging batting practice and he said, base hits are the perfect example of negative feedback for a pitcher. Right? Like, that's amusing. And baseball players, they just have all this time during the day, so they're pranksters and stuff like that. So I'm rereading Ball 4 and I'm going through a bunch of stuff, so I will be recommending stuff as I go along. So that's what I'm doing. I recommend you read Ball 4 by Jim Bouton. Check it out.
Sweet. All right, guys, we'll see you next week for episode 100. Oh my gosh, 180. That's insane. But until then, we'll see you then. A boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.